Welcome, everybody. Welcome. LSU versus UCLA preview show / the truth about Brian Kelly's relationship with his players. All the John Talty article, all the rumors and allegations Brian Kelly's way that he threw. We've examined that in a very convoluted, long article that we wrote. That we've got the link right there below, right there. Brian Kelly connecting the dots on the disconnect narrative, fact or fiction, right there on LSUODYSSEY.com. And we kind of wanted to be as fair as possible and to not be biased in any way and show Brian Kelly favoritism as LSU's coach or just go after Kelly for some cheap headlines. We just went for the absolute cold hard facts of it all, and right now it's yes, he's building something. We put it like this: would every single player he's ever coached at LSU in his 2 years invite Brian Kelly to their wedding in 10 years? Maybe not. But have I ever spoken to a single LSU Tiger who's told me they didn't like Brian Kelly? They left because of Brian Kelly. They didn't get along with Kelly. They had a hard time working with him. No, we've never heard that. And we've spoken to superstars, program legends, even in just the last few years who played for the team, All-Americans, regular starters, walk-ons, redshirt freshmen who are thrown into the mixer and now become a starter. There's a lot of scenarios that happen to players at LSU, and we've spoken to a lot of these guys at certain moments across the years about Brian Kelly. Obviously, you start to talk Brian Kelly at some point, right? So how is it with Brian Kelly? How do you like playing for Brian Kelly? Of course, some of the first questions I ask people, and it's not because of some bias against Brian Kelly. It's because of all of the stuff you've heard, all of the negativity, all of the insanity, all of the extreme emotions pro or against Brian Kelly one way or another. It was kind of like, what? Why do people have such a disdain for this guy? Like, I knew about the Declan Sullivan thing, and yes, some negligence his way most likely, but people saying some terrible stuff like he killed a kid, like that is so gross to say. Like, just throw that out, like, ugh. Like, that's, people would never say that to someone's face, of course, because they're just gross. And to even, you see that posted on the forums and message boards all the time. You see it posted on Twitter all the time. Brian Kelly haters posting they post stuff that I've never seen about any other coach. They hate him at a level that I've never seen for any other coach. Why? And we looked into all of it. And we looked into whether it was fair, unfair, founded, unfounded. And we've came up with something that was pretty much, cobbled together from all these different sources over the years. Actual people inside the program, unlike John Talty. And, it's not like Brian Kelly's walking in there with a backwards hat asking him, hey, is Drake still cool? I mean, who's got the new Kendrick Lamar record? Does he have to go in there and put his arm around every guy and like, hey, how's your relationship with your girlfriend going? How you guys doing? Or walking up to another kid and being like, hey, you got to watch your speed. You're not driving too fast, right? I mean, this isn't Georgia, But he doesn't have to do that to relate to kids, because we've seen him be able to relate to kids just fine. He's had 3 straight top 5 classes since he's been at LSU, signing 5 stars, signing big-time, high-profile players that coaches who are usually talked about as relatable or in conversation is more relatable than Brian Kelly, supposedly. Guys like Ryan Day, guys like Lane Kiffin, and he's out recruiting them. So tell me, if he cannot relate to his players as well as media darlings or kind of the young, kind of hot coaches like those guys are a Dan Lanning, who Brian Kelly also out recruits, how come, you know, how come he's doing that? How come he's able to out recruit them? And you could say, well, that's his assistant coaches. That's his assistant coaches who are making those deals happen, making those players come to Baton Rouge. And it's like, at some point, Brian Kelly has to show his face. At some point, he has to talk to those parents on the recruiting trail. At some point, we'll get into that later on as far as him talking to parents once the players are on campus, because that's a whole other story. But he really is great at closing and sealing the deal, as you've been able to see, right? I mean, we've got evidence of that. How many 5 stars over the years? How many 4 stars who should be 5 stars? Guys like Emory Jones. You know, it goes on and on and on of what Brian Kelly has actually been able to do in just a few years here at LSU as far as recruiting. And it's of course, Frank Wilson, Cortez Hankton, Sherman Wilson, J.R. Belton, of course. There's so many badasses on that staff, Bobby Barham, all these guys who contribute to the success there. Guys like, there's this dude who was blocking me at one point who doesn't block me anymore, but who is he? Red-haired guy, Ginger. He's on staff, but I like him as well. He's what's his name? He's also very effective on staff as well. But you've got Todd Fitch on staff now. You've got incredible amount of depth there on staff, not just on the recruiting staff or on the assistant. You've got everyone everywhere in analysts' roles. It's a very deep staff. When you're talking about Kevin Peoples, Bo Davis recruiting the defensive line and the edge, when you got Brad Davis recruiting the offensive line, and I've been hearing it that Brad Davis he's overrated as a coach. I think that is absolute bullshit. People have been trying to allege that in our comments, like he's overrated as an all-line coach. All he can do is recruit. That's a stupid argument that I've heard of many a time from a few people. And I love you, Cole. I love you, King Cole, but it's not true. Brad Davis is a good O-line coach. God, Brad and Bo Davis. I don't know how people aren't mixing the two up more. Like, I almost did there just barely. But you got these two. And then you got such a plentiful staff. Brian Kelly has built an electric staff for LSU to succeed. And so if they don't succeed, you would wonder, is Brian Kelly the reason why? Is Brian Kelly the guy who's in the way? Is he the guy for the job? Can he actually win the big games? Can he deliver championships for LSU? Can he take LSU over this hump? I argue in the article, and I argue here, of course, I believe he can. I believe he will. And I think the only way that he wouldn't is if significant things got in his way. I'm talking about LSU getting in trouble with NCAA stuff. I'm talking all sorts of hell raining down on Brian Kelly and the LSU program, and some being his mistakes, some not being his mistakes. And that's what it would take for me to believe that this experiment would at least garner one championship, especially in the new setup where LSU are going to get more bites of the apple here. Imagine, if you would, last year's team getting a chance in the 12-team playoff. What could have been possible if, like, Jaden Daniels, like we the day we qualify for the 12-team playoff, we get like maybe a pretty winnable game in the first one, even though we're like a low seed. We get a winnable game, and you got Jaden Daniels going to the defense and being like, listen, we've got 3-4 games, whatever. 4 games to win the championship here. You got a ball for me defense. You got to absolutely roll with me defense. and like gets in their face, and you see some elevated defensive play. That type of shit would just didn't happen. It didn't have a chance to happen last year. Now you have that chance with a 12-team playoff. If LSU do not get into this thing and not only make a dent, he's gonna jump on me, but also not only make a dent, but also really like year after year get in there and compete under Brian Kelly, it would be strange. It would be suspect because we are expecting LSU to take that next step, not committing the same errors that we saw in 2020 and 2021 once again. Losing openers, getting destroyed by teams that we have no business losing to, let alone getting beaten up by. We have seen games get chaotic at times under Brian Kelly. And that could be a case of hiring guys like Brian Polian, hiring guys like Matt House, and having too much respect for his assistants, giving them too much autonomy instead of just running up into the booth or going over on the sidelines and saying, being like, dude, give me your headset. Like, you're done. Like how he's got a lot of respect for his assistants. The fact that he, how he controlled himself from doing that with Matt House or Brian Point, crazy. And so you understand why it's okay. LSU had the worst special teams unit they've ever had in his first season. And that unit lost you games in a year where you made the SEC championship game and you actually played like dog shit on offense. And it was actually your defense that bailed you out of games. And then your defense would randomly give up 40-plus point games out of nowhere to Tennessee, to A&M, to Georgia. But your offense would randomly ball out of their mind at these critical moments against Alabama, of course, against Georgia at moments. LSU's offense had a couple 150-yard receivers for like the first time that whole season. Malik Neighbors, just 3 touchdowns that entire season. Luckily, we were there for 2 of them. It's just it wasn't the best offense we've ever seen in LSU history, especially when you got a weapon like Jaden Daniels. And that offensive line was just figuring it out, getting it together. Now in 2023, you saw that offense take the next level. You saw the defense be so bad that it cost us the championship. And Brian Kelly has the chance to make that right by getting rid of Matt House. And for an instant, the entire LSU nation thought he's going to keep this guy. He's going to gamble on Matt House. He's basically going to gamble his LSU future, his tenure on Matt House. That's what it appeared like until we broke the news. LSUODYSSEY.COM broke the news that Matt House and his entire defensive staff would be fired by Brian Kelly, or had been, I should say. It was nuts. And it was a big turnaround. A lot of people had a lot of different views on Brian Kelly. We're going in one direction on Brian Kelly, and then suddenly he does something, and then they completely thought something different of Brian Kelly. And with each hire defensively that he made across that winter, you saw opinion for Brian Kelly, and as the recruiting continued to pick up like crazy, you saw it all just going sky high, the opinions of Kelly and what could be possible. And you heard some people who actually know football and actually don't just meat ride, but really have like some opinions and actually know what the game's about and what it takes to actually navigate a winning season, or have seen now a losing season collapses and devolves into insanity. Those people were saying, hey, but don't shit on these coaches if they can't get it done in year one. This is an electric staff Brian Kelly's put together, Don't give them crap. Like, let them evolve. They might not have every piece to the puzzle that they need to be successful as coaches, as assistant coaches, and Brian Kelly as a head coach right in this second. Remember where this roster came from. Remember where this roster's still been. But at the same time, no excuses anymore, because LSU had chances to get defensive linemen in the portal for 2 years now. Brian Kelly had that excuse in year one, I think, with the defensive line, but he was still able to get Mekhi Wingo within months of your arrival, with like the defensive line coaching like shuffle being insane. We have Bo Davis. How could we not, bring in some heft there on the defensive line? So there's no excuses anymore. The defensive line roster has been atrocious, and you have seen Bo Davis, Brian Kelly really make a concerted effort to recruit the hell out of that unit in the 2024, 2025 classes. You saw them with 2024. It was just going nowhere. I think they had just Demarion Johnson, no one else. And then finally, they get Ahmad Bro, and then get Dominic McKinley, and then Gabe Relaford. Flip those two from A&M at the last second. That's what happened. Barely. By the skin of our teeth. But, I just think Brian Kelly, people can say, oh, well, he fired those coaches, Corey Raymond and Blake Baker, only to rehire them. Ooh, he was bad. And it's like, so you're telling me that you were sitting there on a podium saying, hire Blake Baker, the linebackers coach, as your defensive coordinator right now, Kelly. Did anyone say that? Was anyone saying that? Hey, hire your Blake Baker, who's only your linebackers coach at the time. I didn't hear anyone say that. So when people say that type of stuff, it's kind of stupid. I get the Corey Raymond thing, but at the same time, LSU were going down such a bad path defensively in the secondary, on the recruiting trail as well. It was very strange, and it seemed like maybe Corey Raymond had reached that limit. But obviously that wasn't true. Corey Raymond had far more left in the tank. We bring him back. He anonymous at Florida, though. Really. Anonymous 2 years at Florida. We bring him back now to LSU, and it looks like he's got that gem, that diamond DBU Miyagi vibe to him again, because he's getting guys like DJ Pickett. He's developing guys like Ashton Stamps and PJ Woodland into absolute ballers, guys who are making big plays. Without Ashton Stamps, with that pass breakup, that end zone targeted pass that was going, and he was beat on the play, and he recovers, gets his hand in there, saved 4 points right there. That's the game. That's the game right there, people. Like, that's the type of, I know Ashton Stamps was beaten on a few plays. I get it. He hasn't had a good few games, but those are the plays that won us the game. And that's a dude who's just barely playing, He's just barely played in his LSU career. And so you see, Brian Kelly has put in these guys on staff to build a dynasty, really, in my opinion. Is it going to happen? Will it happen? I'm not sure. But it is way too early for people like John Talty or even me to claim that, Brian Kelly he's just not going to be successful at LSU. Brian Kelly's just not, he just doesn't have what it takes. Brian Kelly's just, he's over the hill, he was only going to make that one title game at Notre Dame, and that was all he was going to do. He was never going to hit the big time, never going to win the big one. I just think all of that type of thinking is just kind of stupid. I think it doesn't really make sense. And I think it's kind of lazy. And I think it kind of just says, oh, you're not. Brian Kelly sucks. Hate Brian Kelly. Blame Brian Kelly for anything that happens bad to LSU. And it's lazy, it's hateful, it's stupid, and it's what ruins the internet nowadays. It's what ruins society nowadays. It's what people are just cruel. People are just love cruelty. And they love to hate Brian Kelly at all costs. They love to see this guy fail at all costs. So therefore, LSU have a giant target on their backs by these people in the media. Brian Kelly has a big target on his back, especially the day he got that $100 million contract and 10-year contract. You cannot tell me that did not start right then. Because it felt like it did. It felt like they were building him up for a bit. They're like, ooh, he's ascending. He's the next Saban. And then maybe day 3 of the Kelly hire, when the videos are starting to come out from LSU of him on the plane, on the phone, the coffee, and all this stuff. Like, I think that's when the tide started shifting and like, oh, you know what? Brian Kelly's an asshole. He's a bad guy. Let's paint him with this narrative. Like, it happened quick. And John Talty, a guy who's alleging that he has sources from around the industry who are familiar with LSU. This is his previous opinions of Brian Kelly. Okay. Seems like a much more enjoyable person to be around than Brian Kelly. And then when you were getting a trendy SEC pick, but your team can't do anything right and are getting boat raced against South Carolina. That tweet did not really age well. And then this one as well. South Carolina is on the rise. LSU is forever frauds. Moneyline Gamecocks. LSU is forever frauds. And John Talty says, nailed it. Our article says, now we have nothing personal against Talty, but like anyone who's going to claim something about LSU from the outside, LSU Odyssey itself possesses the sources to see if what they're saying is true, but also potentially be able to track down who their source is without necessarily trying, just by simply crossing the same lines. It's happened before, and it has happened again. It has happened again. We know exactly the industry sources who are familiar with LSU, and it's national lackeys that would just have very surface level knowledge of the Tigers. People who barely talk LSU on their shows, barely have an understanding, have had access here and there. Maybe they talked to a player once or twice. Maybe they traded a number with a big time player, and he said, I don't like Brian Kelly or something to this guy. And then so he's like, oh wow, players don't like Brian Kelly. And just kind of, felt like that the whole time. Doesn't cover LSU day to day, so he doesn't go back there, doesn't talk to more kids, doesn't talk to more players. And then later on talks to John Talty and says, yeah, this kid, big time player, says he doesn't like Brian Kelly. John Talty goes, oh, sweet. I already don't like Brian Kelly. And now we've got another person who doesn't like Brian Kelly that we can add to the stack of people who don't like Brian Kelly, so we can take down Brian Kelly because we don't like Brian Kelly. You see what I just said there? See how I just did that? It is all political. It is all popularity contest. Brian Kelly might not talk to parents. He might not be too personable. He might not be, his dry jokes might be a little. It might go over some people's heads. It doesn't go over mine. I find him hilarious. He might turn some people off. He's arrogant. He's this. You know what? I think some of the people who also call people arrogant usually are people who are kind of jealous of their vibe, afraid of their vibe, worried about their vibe, maybe feel like their territory is being treaded on or something. Like, I don't know how to explain it. They're just there's maybe not a jealousy, but no one's going to feel bad for $100 million, head coach. No one's going to feel bad for $100 million baby boomer old, head coach who has had a political life, has been a head coach for almost 40 years, I think it is. Like, no one's going to feel bad for a guy in that position. And so it's hard for people to generate sympathy for Brian Kelly, but it doesn't really matter. Brian Kelly, for me, I think if I were advising Brian Kelly, I would say, hey, show what kind of person you are to the people. Like, go out among the people more. That would be my advice. The rest, you know what? It's his program. He can coach his program however the hell he wants. And until we see evidence of actual disconnect, actual, problems in the locker room, which we haven't seen. I mean, yeah, there's been an isolated incident here or there, like any team ever. But I'm talking about like a mutiny. I'm talking about, like what this guy's trying to say is basically a mutiny is going on. That there's just a complete disconnect between Brian Kelly and his player. I don't think that every player is sitting there like hanging on every word Brian Kelly says, like, this is the greatest fucking speech I've ever heard. I'm so dialed in. I'm going to run through a brick wall for you. I love you, coach. Oh my God. I want to marry your daughters. Like, it doesn't have to be that emotional and that kiss assy. We don't have to play for Clemson, We don't have to be little windbags. It can be a transactional thing and still successful. Coach, help me reach my goals, and I'm going to help you reach your goals. We're going to reach our goals together. Let's climb the top here, baby. Let's go. How many times do you see that happen? A lot. Great coaches rise with great players on the field doing it for them. And they rise as well through that. And so you've just seen some strange shit with that type of stuff not being possible for Brian Kelly in the eyes of the media. It's basically Brian Kelly can really do no right. I think almost no matter how he approaches a player at this point, it will be deemed fake, for show, political. Oh, look at the way he's hanging out with Caden Durham right there and saying, my man and stuff. Oh, that's this thing and that's that thing. Oh, he looks this, he looks that. Like, there's always going to be this BS when it comes to Brian Kelly. I think it's going to be that way for the rest of his career, really. And I don't know where that comes from, but I think LSU fans should thrive off that and be, let it almost get them like more into the game, more like, hey, that's our head coach. Fuck you, that type of vibe. Is Brian Kelly being alleged to do anything like Les Miles or Coach O did? No. What is the deal? He's not going in there with a backwards hat and a chain around his neck and he's wearing baggy jeans. Like, what do you want from Brian Kelly? Is he supposed to like, oh my God, I could make a billion jokes right now that would get me canceled, but holy shit, like, what is he supposed to do? Seriously, you know what I'm meaning here. Like, he's an old white guy. What is it? Like, he's trying his best. He doesn't have to be everybody's best friend, everybody's favorite coach, It doesn't have to be inspirational. It doesn't have to be remember the fucking Titans every time you go for a meeting, It can be, let's go win the game. Let's go win the goddamn game. Let's go win a championship here at LSU. And I think that's going to be the thing about Brian Kelly. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a very sexy tenure. But when you look back on it, you're going to be like, wow, okay, there were some serious high moments here that we never even saw before at LSU. He's already done it. He was the first coach in LSU history to beat Auburn and Florida on the road in the same year. No coach had ever done that. He did that in year 1. Okay. I'm generally sure that there's a lot of quarterbacking and offense records that he's either tied with Coach O or close to Coach O on for some of these Jaden Daniels to Joe Burrow records with the Heisman, because just like Coach O, he had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. The thing where Brian Kelly is maybe letting his players down is maybe he could be more invested in them in the day-to-day. Maybe he could be more into the grind. But here's the thing. That information about him, well, he's not working as hard. He's not doing this. He's not in the grind as much. He's going out to dinners. He's going out golfing. All this stuff. We don't have 100% proof of that. We have just heard that mostly from people who don't like Brian Kelly. So that's the thing. We've heard these things for years, and sometimes from people who never told us a lie, who've never lied to us, who are always straight shooters. Sometimes from people who just don't like Brian Kelly. He's trying to put his car over the laptop. Here's your car. Here's your car, buddy. Put it down the ramp. And so there's a hatred for Brian Kelly that's going to burn, and burn bright, especially if he wins. Don't think it's going away if he wins. It's not going to. And that's okay. Let them hate Brian Kelly. Let it take over their minds. Let it take over their entire personality and very being and soul. Because when LSU win that championship with Brian Kelly, it's going to absolutely tear their souls apart, because Notre Dame aren't going to win a championship before LSU does with Brian Kelly. It won't happen. LSU will win a championship before Notre Dame even gets close to sniffing one. And of course, Notre Dame will get in this playoff. They'll get in the playoff more than they won't. They'll get, if they have a good enough team, obviously. But I'm saying, like, if they're 9-3, they're getting in. 10-2, they're getting in. Like, mark my words. Like, they will leapfrog over God knows who to get Notre Dame in these college football playoffs. LSU are going to have chances to actually play Notre Dame potentially in these college football playoffs. What type of game would that be? That'd be special. So I'm just saying, I just don't. Yes, your car. He loves his cars show. It's complex what's going on with Brian Kelly. I don't think there's a disconnect with his team. I don't think there's a disconnect with players at all. I think people are way too touchy in their political obsessions, whether that means they're pro-Kelly or anti-Kelly. They're very like, you said something that's anti-Kelly? I'm done blocking you. Fine. I'm unsubscribing. It's like, what did we say it was anti-Kelly? You said he shouldn't have hired this guy. So he shouldn't have. Like, what? Does that mean it's anti-Kelly? Like, like any little criticism means you hate the guy. Like, it's outrageous. There's a difference. But there's also, you can just tell when someone and a group of people just hate somebody. And that's what you've seen in people like John Talty's criticism of Brian Kelly. Is you just see mostly a guy who just does not like Brian Kelly. Which is fine. You don't have to like Brian Kelly, but it's just, it kind of looks strange when you write these articles saying with anonymous industry sources familiar with LSU. If I'm a national guy who doesn't have to rely on those LSU creds, why wouldn't you get someone to go on the record? Why wouldn't you get someone to bravely go on the record for you? I think you could have. with CBS as being your platform, right? Couldn't you have been able to get someone on the record? It's because I think John Talty was talking to people who know nothing inside the program, nobody who is inside the program, nobody who has access inside the program. So I think it's quite obvious what really has happened here, and it's another smear job against Brian Kelly. Yes, could Brian Kelly do better as a head coach with his players? Probably, maybe. We're not in the building every damn day, but maybe making a joke about not being able to remember a walk-on's name, and it's not like you can't remember a star player's name. Maybe the guy who's the joke is being told about isn't laughing about it as much as the bunch of media guys and you are in the press conference room. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they're taking that joke a little more seriously and personally than you are. The fact that you don't remember their name. Maybe they're touchy, maybe they're bitchy, but that's how it is. That's how sometimes that's been taken. And so maybe that's where the arrogant, tag of Brian Kelly comes from. I'm not sure. But it's also the money that he's made. People watch him yelling at refs ever since his time at Notre Dame and are just like, that guy looks like an asshole. Like I've heard people literally, who did LSU just hire? And I'm like, Brian Kelly. And then the guy would be like, oh, that guy's an asshole. And it was like, I've never heard you even once bring up Brian Kelly's name for like 2 years that I've been working here. What are you talking about? Like, it's almost like a game to hate Brian Kelly with some of these people. So don't really take that stuff seriously until you hear it from a player. Until a player comes right out, until a player shows them a Kai Wingo-esque type of dismissal of their coach like he did to Matt House, until you see that sign, until you see that moment. The historic moment that was filmed by Jacques Doucet, actually, the Mackay Wingo shrug off, basically, of Matt House after the Wisconsin game. Until you see that, there's no disconnect. And what this guy's saying is utter malarkey. What do you think of this shirt? This green screen bullshit. Sage. Want to say hi, Sagey? Hi. Now let's run. Is that your donkey friend? Your donkey friend. Your donkey friend, Antonio Banderas. Yeah, of course, I come up with weird different characters for every one of his things in here. Of course I do. So I wanted to kind of make a companion to that article with this show, kind of explain some of the background, expand kind of on some of the points we made in that article. The article's very deep and thorough and very in your face, and the comments section has the link for it right there. By the way, just a word to the wise. If you guys are ever going to our site on the Wix Spaces app, don't do that. Don't use the Wix Spaces app anymore to view our stuff. It's never presented how we intend on the Wix Spaces app. it is like a simplified bullshit, terrible version of what we have set up, which is really right here. This is how it's supposed to look. We'll reload the screen for you to check out. Sorry, the StreamYard's slowing it down a bit, and so is the Wix and all this stuff. My God. There we go. We've got literally like 13 damn windows open. Oh my God. Sorry about that. So for me, this whole Brian Kelly can't connect with his players, it is a myth until I see otherwise, until we see like LSU barely beat you at UCLA, until we see another performance like we saw last week against UCLA again. And with even more chaos and even more chaotic coaching and Brian Kelly just being out of control and losing control of his team. Have we seen that disconnection with his team where he's losing control of his team? Have we ever seen that from Brian Kelly at LSU? No, we haven't. Especially when after we've lost heartbreaking defeats, games with a lot of toxicity, a lot of criticism after the team and Brian Kelly in the aftermath of those losses. Still, you have never seen the players come out and be like, nope, screw this. We don't like the way the coaching staff is doing this. Even with Matt House's terrible defensive coaching last year, you didn't hear the criticism publicly. So my point is, this guy, John Talty, I'm not saying he, is a David Glass type reporter or whatever the guy's name was, the guy who was completely full of shit with the lying and the fake sources. I'm not saying he's like that, but nowadays you can absolutely get away with just making up stuff because we have seen it. We have literally seen people post this stuff and they don't have a source. It's made up and people just forget about it. And then some type of event occurs like 6 months later and you go, oh my God, if that just happened, that would mean like factually this thing that they had reported on, there's no way that actually could have happened. There's simply no way. There's always these type of stories that come out where it's like, wow, there's no way they had a source. There's no way that was even a real story. There was no way that anything was true to that. And one by one, people will come out and it will be like, people who've told me real stories before, actual, pretty damn insane stuff before are like, no, that shit never happened. No, that shit's bullshit. Like, like people will be straight up when they see the lies in the media because it's like they know the game and they play the game frequently. And so they don't like the disrespect of the game. So, I'm not 100% saying he's a liar. I'm not 100% saying he doesn't have a source. He's probably got someone who has minimal access or maybe a lot of access, but just doesn't like Brian Kelly. And so that's going to be their opinion. And they're speaking for everybody because I have seen this multiple times. I've seen it with a few disgruntled former players who loved Brian Kelly, loved everything about the team. And then when they left the team or were dismissed from the team, immediately went after Kelly and would try and give up as much info as possible to like almost try and hurt the team. And it was like, it was biblical, the amount of stuff we kept out of the headlines. So my point is, you've got to make sure with these bullshit sources, you've got to make sure with these giant corporate media tycoon titans who they bring up this stuff, and you wonder how much of it is for clicks, how much of it is to try and get subscription money. You wonder if just both of those things, obviously. And you wonder if it's just all for pure monetary reasons. There's not even content to it. You've got a boss behind this who's not even like telling someone to do anything. It's just like, yep, copy and paste it, post it, put it through the AI reader thing, and let the AI reader just shit out an article and then post that. Have it ready in 10 minutes. I'm not going to ask again. Have it ready in 10 minutes. Don't even write anything. Like, if you write anything, you're fired. The writing must come from the fucking robot. It's scary. It's a scary world. And that's why I had to write this article, as well as, I had to do a podcast, but I also wanted to write this thing because I'm not going to give up on that. We've got a style, we've got a vibe to the writing that is our own, no one else's. And I think that is worth continuing no matter what. I also think there's more authority to what we write than what we have said. I also think we're a better writer than we're a speaker still. I think this show, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in the groove. I'm loving this. I'm feeling like zero script, zero notes. I've been thinking about this podcast for like 4 days, prepping for this podcast for like 4 days. But by simply writing the article, this long behemoth right here, Brian Kelly connecting the dots on the disconnect narrative, fact or fiction. Let me get to the top here so you can see it. Boom, 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 boom. They're on LSUODYSSEY.com for your reading pleasure. And, we've gone into enough of this. I think Brian Kelly is kind of literally the subject of a bit of a witch hunt here. I think also Brian Kelly's had some chaotic moments at his time at LSU. I think he's made some mistakes, hiring, firing. I think he's made some oversteps in that situation. I think he's let some players go that he should have retained. I think there's players that he should have gotten rid of or gotten off the field a lot sooner than he did. I think there's coaches he should have gotten rid of a lot sooner than he did, seen the writing on the wall. Should have admitted his mistake way before. There's times that it's almost like he can't admit that he's wrong. Let's hold out for this to turn it around. And I understand LSU are a very awesome second half team in the Brian Kelly era, but it's very much shooting by the hip in a way. So many of these games, LSU in 14 of 30 Brian Kelly coach games, in almost half of his coaching games at LSU, 14 of 30 games, LSU have faced double-digit deficits at some time in those 14 games. In 14 of 30 games, LSU have faced deficits of 10-plus points at some point. LSU have lost 7 of those games, but then in the other 7 have come back from 10-plus points to win. 2 of those wins from 10-plus points coming from Garrett Nussmeier in 2 of his last 4 starts, actually, 2 of our last 4 games for LSU, and 5 come from Jaden Daniels. So it's very much a live and die by this, like, not starting the games well type of vibe. Like, okay, we'll wake up in the second half and we'll just have a good comeback and we'll win. And then we do. And then the next game, you think you can get away with it, and then you still get your ass kicked. 6.8 points per game averaged in the first quarter. 6.8 points per game average scoring in the first quarters under Brian Kelly. 6.8 points per game scored in the first quarter. 30 games, scoring 205 total first quarter points. going scoreless in 10 first quarters of those contests. LSU are actually 7-3. LSU have a 7-3 record when going scoreless in the first quarter under Coach Kelly. So we've gone scoreless in 10 first quarters of those 30 games for LSU. This is from a statistic that we cobbled up ourselves by just simply counting all the quarters. Literally went game by game by game in all 3 seasons. Very interesting stuff. 6.8 points per game scored, 10 scoreless first quarters. And then you've seen LSU dump a shit ton of points in the second half in these games. And I'm going to be showing you the second half's stats in the next show that we do here, because it is very interesting. You've got just 21-point quarters out of nowhere in the third. LSU have been a traditionally damn good third quarter team under Brian Kelly, win or lose. Third quarter is usually when we get it going. And in a lot of those games, we didn't defer the opening kickoff, so we're not even getting the ball in the first possession. Very interesting stuff. So LSU are going to be facing against UCLA, a very beatable opponent for Brian Kelly and LSU. LSU have figured it out as far as Harold Perkins. They're going to give him this free role. Is it a star? Is it a nickel Sam? Is it a outside linebacker role? Is it all 3? I'd say it's all 3, basically. He's playing in a free role. You can call it the star, I guess, in this defense. And that's why we reported it as the star, because he's in that spot, that free role where you're going to attack in variety of different roles. You're that man. And he's taking over from Major Burns. And Major Burns wasn't really competing at safety. It was going to be Deshaun Spears or Jordan Gilbert. Okay? And then suddenly, Major Burns makes a play for that safety spot in the last few days of practice last week and is able to claim the safety spot. And alongside Sage Ryan, while Jordan Allen is out hurt, which sucks. Jordan Allen, hopefully he gets back as soon as possible. You heard today that West Weeks would be a game-time decision. LSUODYSSEY.com is reporting right now, breaking news, that West Weeks is almost like 100% likely out for that game. Like without doubt, he will not play versus UCLA as well. So you've got West Weeks missing his second straight game, sadly. And we will not reveal the details of that injury right now. That won't be happening. But yes, West Weeks out for the second straight game. We'll see what happens with the injury report when that's released tomorrow. See, we're gonna have that afternoon kickoff. It's gonna be in the heat. I don't think UCLA know what they're in for. I think if LSU let themselves get bitched around in this game, I think if LSU get beaten up in this game, like they did against Nichols, it'll be way more embarrassing than a Nichols loss. It'll be way more embarrassing than a Nichols close shave. It'll be way more embarrassing than that, because you've seen how screwed up this UCLA program is right now. How in the muck of a rebuilding mode they are. You know how backwards this program is right now. And if LSU were to struggle against that, then you know there is true dysfunction on this roster, no matter what anyone tells you. No matter what anyone tries to paint it as. Because at this point, you can also tell that there are some people who just don't want any more drama. They had it for a year, maybe even 2, under the Coach O, era, and they don't want any more with Brian Kelly's era. They've enjoyed not having so much nonstop media firestorms, even though there still has been that element there with LSU and in the Kelly era. It's mostly been the media trying to just get anything going, you know? Coach O was giving the media every reason to blow up in 2021, 2020, 2019. He was giving them everything to blow up and make it a big deal. Now you've got the media trying to make it themselves. So it's a very interesting dichotomy now. LSU, the best remedy for that is not to struggle against UCLA. It's to beat UCLA's fucking brains in from the first whistle, right? That's not a violent statement. That is literally me saying about football that LSU should dominate UCLA. LSU should eviscerate UCLA from the first to the last and get out in front, just like they did against, I mean, Pac-12 fans, people like that are going to shudder at what the comparison I'm about to make. But LSU should literally dominate them like they did Southern a year ago, where LSU scored, what was it, like 31 points in the first quarter? Like, LSU have only scored 9 points in the first quarter in 3 games this season. That's another thing. We want to see LSU have a fast start in this game, come out hell-bent for leather. We want to see them, really stomp the shit out of UCLA, get a big lead going, and then let the new guys come out there and just make their mark. Make a big statement, a big impression. Hey, I'm here. I'm ready to tackle some people. I'm ready to go flying into some plays. Give me the football, whether it's someone who's, whether it's Caden Durham. Let him go for 150. The fact that he only got 98 yards in that game against South Carolina, one of the most pathetic fan bases I've ever heard of. You need to let him get over 100 yards in that game. Right decision to put Josh Williams in there for the short yardage. You've seen why we've said that about Josh Williams and why he is those, for the tough, hard yards, he is so money in a lot of those plays when they're blocked right. And he can make guys miss at times. But Caden Durham, you got to get him in the 100-yard game. Got to get in the 100-yard game. And so tomorrow afternoon, LSU, Frank Wilson, Brian Kelly, they've got to get Caden Durham that 100-yard game. He deserves it. He's earned it. Let him go off. And if any of the other running backs, the other 2 running backs that LSU have, 2 scholarship running backs that LSU have besides Caden Durham start going off, like if Caleb starts going off too, let Caleb get as much of the ball as you can get him, and let Caleb and Caden kind of go off each other and let Caleb really get something going. Because if Caleb Jackson can get something going too, alongside Caden Durham, you're talking about a running game that's really getting it going. Then you got Josh Williams, short yardage, punching it in consistently. You've got the 3-headed monster that we're hoping for. You just hope that they can figure that out and actually make it happen. And it's really about being smart with the rotation and when to take guys out, when not to take guys out, when to stick with the hot hand. And that is an art. That is a science. And I have seen some great running back coaches suck at rotation. What you doing? What is this weird noise? Ow. 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 You want some water? You getting annoyed with the show? think you want some peaches. You got your peaches and your bacon right here. We're gonna put some carbonara in. If you weren't screaming this weird Oh shit! What did I start? Oh no! Hey Seiji, come here. Hey Sage, come here. You want some Cheez-Its? You want some Cheez-Its, Seiji? Stop. What are you doing? That was all he wanted, I guess. Attention. Non-stop attention. Undying attention. Of course. I'm sorry, Bubba. This is why we try not to do the show with him here, because we want to be able to give him 100% attention. When we're doing the show, it's kind of hard to do that. We want to give the audience 100% of our attention when we're doing our show. We want to give him 100% of our attention when we're being a dad. And so it's crazy to do the show with Sage right here, but I also think it's cool having him be a part of it too. Gua gua, what does that mean? What does gua gua mean? Okay, Sage, relax. So LSU play UCLA, and for me, this is not even a game about LSU. This is a game, not a game about UCLA in any way, shape, or form. This is a game all about LSU beating the shit out of UCLA. Really, that's all that should happen. That's all it should be about. UCLA are absolute hot garbage that just lost by, I think it was 35 points or something to Indiana. They just lost 49-13, something like that, to Indiana. If LSU struggle in any way, shape, or form against UCLA, it would be extremely troubling. It would be extremely worrying. Alarm bells would be going off for Scott Woodward. Mark those words, because this is a game where Brian Kelly, LSU, should be putting on a show, should be stamping their authority, should be saying this is what LSU Tigers football looks like. And even if we can't do this against, every single big team out there, we can at least do this to you, UCLA. We can at least do this to you today, where we have everything go our way. Where if we want Kyron Lacey to go for 250, he will. If we want this guy to get 10 catches out there tomorrow, he will. We're going to have that game that we should have had against Nichols, against you bastards. So come and get it, soy boys. Come and get it, you Kamala voters. You're about to get your ass kicked. I don't mean to get all crazy. It's just LSU have to show some type of life in this game where you are willing to absolutely eviscerate UCLA, right? UCLA should have zero chance in this game. And if LSU give them even a glimmer early, I will be stunned. I will be absolutely stunned by that. If LSU even give them a glimmer. Because this is a game that should be open and shut, closed case very quickly. You've got conservative thinking national analysts saying LSU are going to win this 54-13. What was our prediction? let's see here. This is our preview article. We'll put the preview predictions article in the comments section there. We've got a bunch of people watching. No comments. Weird. Well, actually, there's a few comments. Let's see. There's our UCLA preview predictions. Oh, is Jamer wondering when the show started? Sorry, Jamer. See, that's the thing is we did keep postponing this article and this podcast because we wanted to get this thing right, because we were actually talking to people and they actually had to reply. It wasn't like there's a deadline, get it out. But boss, I didn't talk to anybody. Who cares? Content, get it out, feed the machine, Instead, we're our own boss. We can wait for this to come out as long as it needs to. I'm sorry, guys. We're trying to get this to be as perfectly ready as possible. Because we waited, I think because you guys were patient and you hung in there with me, I think you've got a better article that's more rounded, has more sources, has more information, firsthand accounts. It's got more actual reporting than John Talty could dream of with his article. And you've now got, I think, a better show than you would have had sometime during the week, except for Sage's craziness. Sorry. He took a long nap and then we started doing the show. Usually we take him somewhere after his nap, but this time we were just like, oh, let's do the show. But UCLA, I feel bad for Deshaun Foster because I don't think he's necessarily a bad coach or is going to be a bad coach forever or will be a bad coach forever. But there was a moment with his, should I show it? Should I show the press conference? I feel like a bastard showing the press conference. But his introductory press conference was absolutely one of the worst things we've ever seen. It was, what was it? Big Ten Media Day. Wow. And I see a lot of clips and stuff, but I don't want to do just clips. There we go. This is it, right? Chevy Equinox. Sage, you're making some weird noises. Okay, yeah, we're in LA. That's such a funny thing. We're in LA. Oh, God. There we go.
Foster will lead his alma mater in its inaugural season in the Big Ten Conference. UCLA finished the 2023 campaign 8-5 overall. Coach Foster, welcome to the Big Ten. We'll begin with your opening statement.
How you guys doing? I'm happy to be here. Glad to be a part of this great conference. Finally putting two great emblems together, UCLA and the Big Ten. We're a school that's won, 123 championships, so this fits us being right in this conference. Football-wise, we're just excited. I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but
that means
we're in LA.
Shit. We beat LSU. We're in LA.
It's us and USC.
Wow. We're in LA. Holy shit. I think he had like an anxiety moment.
Football-wise, we're just excited. I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. We
What's going on?
I'm just basically excited, really. That's it. Any questions?
Wow.
In the second row, coach, on your right side.
Got him.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I was actually prepared for to interrupt his speech at some point and be like, this is just going on way too long. I forgot that speech went for like 45 seconds. We're in LA, us and USC. Like, what the hell is going on here? Just all over the place. Has no preparation for that. Like, okay, all right, fine. How can you not go into that prepared? I would be terrified going in that situation unprepared. You're about to be meat in the fucking grinder. So maybe he's learned a lot from this situation. And I don't think he'll go into Tiger Stadium unprepared, right? But does he have the team where it's going to matter, even if he has the best game plan known to man? It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. LSU should dominate this UCLA team by at least 30 points, 25 points, 25 to 30 points at the least. If LSU cannot do that, I'm not trying to sound elitist. I'm not trying to sound ridiculous here. But if LSU cannot fulfill that, kind of baseline goal for this opposition, then this team is nowhere near ready to be competing in a college football playoff. Nowhere near. And it is a year away. Because UCLA, it's not a team LSU should be struggling against. Here's the thing, though. Could this LSU team be actually a team that somehow is successful but struggles and hobbles its way through games to victories against teams that we should be braining, and then against teams that should be kicking our ass, we hang in there and we pull out the win? Is it just going to be a case of very close games? Games that have no business being close, but are just because LSU are indisciplined on some of these things? I don't know. I don't know which way the wind blows on this. But for LSU against UCLA, I think there's really only one outcome that should be possible. And that should be LSU dominating UCLA. And really, it should not be just comfortable. LSU should be literally licking their chops, having as much fun as possible. This should be a game. I mean, LSU are going to be in their purple jerseys, forcing UCLA to wear their road white jerseys. It's going to look very cool, very weird, very unique for LSU. I think you're going to be very stunned to see what these jerseys look like. It's going to be that gold, purple, gold combination. Very cool look, very divine look. LSU need to have the purple jerseys out more. Really. I mean, and you've seen the equipment room under Brian Kelly the last few years. You've seen them really get cool with the all whites, the Jaden Daniels era last season. You saw a lot of the all whites. Not somehow it didn't look like a Diddy party though, but it looked very tasteful actually. But the all whites were sick, and then you've got a lot of purple. You even had the purple in the Wisconsin game. I loved that. I loved when we wore purple in that bowl game. Like, that was just such a badass move. And so Kelly, I give him huge credit for approving these type of things that get fans pumping, that get fans more invested, more riled up for the team. You can say whatever the hell you want about Brian Kelly, but the one thing you will not be able to say that just falls on deaf ears is, one, he absolutely improved a rotting culture that was going on on LSU's roster and their athletic department at the time that he took over. Revitalized the whole situation. Not only that, he can most of the full credit lies at his feet as well for him with that. But then also he's improved the recruiting like crazy. He's actually built a true fence around Louisiana that Coach O never could. Always said, build the fence around Louisiana. And then you've got a guy from Massachusetts who coached at Notre Dame, Grand Valley State, who's now doing that. So it's very interesting to me the way that people have not given Brian Kelly his flowers, refused to, and I think it's time for Brian Kelly to really show them what type of coach he is. That's the only way that's going to really shut these people down. And really, you know what? They're never going to be shut down. They're just going to continue to go after him no matter what. So, Brian, just enjoy it regardless. The only way you can do this is by being successful. The only way you can do this is by winning games. You know that. You came down here knowing that it was going to be high stakes, winner take all, play for keeps. 10-win seasons weren't going to be sufficient. They're going to get people fired. And that's not just limited to assistants and whoever. It's was that a cat? This is a widespread thing, and it could be for everybody. And it's LSU. Ooh, is that a tiger? LSU demand victories, demand a winning culture. Louisiana demands a winning culture, and you understand that on a primitive level. You understand that on a basic level. It's time to really show what this team is about with a full, complete performance tomorrow against UCLA in a game where you just throttle UCLA. I want to see it. I think the fans deserve to see it. This team needs to show their identity and spread their wings and really go off on UCLA. Show exactly the type of team you are to the world right now, right here, right now. Any questions, everybody? What type of noise is that, Sage? That was terrible. Questions, anybody? Any questions? Any concerns? You have the floor in the comment section. What up, Chris? What up, Chris? How you doing, man? Just did the show and just wanted to say what's up. And I was following the back, following the Sorry, that's absolutely annoying. We'll stop doing that terrible, awful singing. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this show. This has been sick. This has been fun. And join us for a post game tomorrow for the game against LSU UCLA. We're going to do a post game for that right here, LSUODYSSEY.com. Definitely watch it on LSUODYSSEY.com if you could. It helps us out even more. Or open like 4 windows on your computer. You know, have your TV tuned to LSUODYSSEY.com while your computer. To the YouTube while your computer's on LSUODYSSEY.com. Just everything, you know. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Let LSU Odyssey take over your home. Just kidding. Oh, God. You know what show I am really loving lately? The Sopranos. Oh, my God. What a show. Got this got yourself again. The Sopranos say forgive in 5 seconds. Chris gets murdered by his uncle in a car. Let's see. Prediction 52-6. That's our prediction, 52-6. I think LSU absolutely should just throttle them, and you should see the best version of the Blake Baker defense. Chris says, best TV show ever. Are you just now seeing it? I saw strings of it for a long time where I would watch an episode and then start watching another and be like, okay, but I don't know everything that's going on here. I can kind of figure it out, smart enough to figure out kind of what's going on here, but I feel like I'm really ruining this for myself by not letting it unfold naturally. Let's don't keep watching this. Let's get away from this and watch the full thing straight through. And we did that 2006, 2007, right up until the last season. And then we watched the last season as it happened, both parts. So we saw that season unfold. And then the final season unfold. And now we hadn't watched it in years. And now we're going back to it and watching it all again with the DVDs. And oh my God, it's just like the show's even better. And it's so much more intense for me now to watch it because James Gandolfini's dead. You know? It's fucking crazy how many of these people have died from this show. And this Don't Stop Believing part actually made me tear up. Where it blacked out with his face. Because I love James Gandolfini. I fucking love James Gandolfini. I can fucking do that. Man. Give me the fucking man. Chris Melder, I've watched it probably 10 times. Start at the beginning and watch it through. Favorite episode. Oh my God. I love where Chris tells Tony that, like, hey, Adriana, this as spoilers, everybody, that she's been talking to the feds for a year, and he says when, since fucking when, you know, and he tells them, I don't know, a year, maybe more, and he has Silvio shoot her. The drama of that episode, the intensity of that whole episode, Chris literally almost strangles her to death. You almost see her life going out of her. I wonder how they filmed that sequence. It is absolutely terrifying. One of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life in a show. And their relationship is so toxic that he just like almost murders her and then goes like, what are we going to do? And then she just kind of like stays there and just kind of caresses him. Like their relationship is it's so pathetically tragic and doomed and just awful and sad. I love where the whole Phil Leotardo going after Balloon Deado, Steve Buscemi, where Buscemi is just nuts, killing everybody, and he's out of line. They're always having meetings about it. I love Johnny Sack. I love what is his name? Is it Carlo or is it Patsy? I can't remember which one, but the guy who wants to kill Tony was about to shoot Tony for whacking one of his brothers or something like that, and then he starts pissing in his pool and has complete loyalty to Tony until the end, until his son gets pinched for ecstasy, and then in the very final episode it's kind of revealed, spoilers everyone, that he's turned state's evidence. Chris Melder, Whitecaps, where Tony and Carmella split up. Yeah, I mean, it's a show that is really crazy and savage and nuts. And I thought it was a boring show. I thought, well, not really much happens. It's these Goombas literally being like, what the fuck you doing? Give me more money. Yeah, what's the money? Give me that shit, yeah, man. Give me that fucking thing. Yeah, give me the just kind of this like gross, we own the garbage thing. New Jersey. Okay, give me the money. I'll hit your face. I didn't really think it was that savage or intense or layered of a show. But oh my God, so much happens. So much goes on. I love Johnny Sack, how ruthless he is and how stupid he is once he gets the boss job. Like he gets made a boss, and the fucker still keeps pushing for just absolute more. Yeah, Edie Falco won like multiple Golden Globes for that. Like she was always nominated, and I swear won for The Sopranos. But I think there should have been more supporting roles that should have won awards for that show. The guy who plays Richie is ridiculous. He's so good as Richie. It's unreal. He's so slimy. I'm old school, which basically means just kiss my ass and give me money because I walk, I breathe. And Tony's like, get the fuck out of here. Like everything Tony always says, now get the fuck out of here. Like he always tells the person, now get the fuck out of here. You never tell your bitch. Now you get the fuck out of here. Like I can't do his voice. Manson lamps. Yeah, he's like, don't look at me with those Manson lamps. Don't you look at me with those Manson lamps and get the fuck out of here. What you watching? Oh, shoot. A water bottle. All right, everybody. Take it easy, you crazies. We'll be seeing you for LSU UCLA tomorrow. Join LSUODYSSEY.com if you haven't. Help us get to games this season. We're trying to get it to as many games this season to cover them. And we would love to be able to do it. And we got to be able to do it. We got to be able to get down there. Got to cover more games and make some more craziness happen. LSUODYSSEY.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Lon Phillips. Instagram right there at LSU Odyssey Lon. And, of course, subscribe and like this video. Share this video with everyone you know. Just shove it down there. Be like, just sign off. You just do it. Do it, LSU, baby. Everybody, I'm, of course, joking. Don't take any of that seriously, of course. But we would love your help and support to try and get to as many games as we possibly can. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching this. Have a hell of an amazing Friday. We'll be talking to a lot of you, hopefully all of you, tomorrow, hopefully after an LSU victory against UCLA. Take it easy, everybody.